Northeast Regional Conference of the Korean American Scientists and Engineers Association, KSEA has always been guided by a clear vision. First, to promote the application of science and technology for the welfare of society. Second, to strengthen international cooperation between the United States and Korea. And third, to support Korean American scientists and engineers so they can reach their full potential and serve our communities. Three goals are more than statements. They represent a communities that believes science and engineering can make the world a better place. The theme of the 2026 Northeast Regional Conference is Science and Technology for Human Potential, shaping our world and beyond. Throughout history, human progress has always been driven by curiosity and innovations. Today, we are witnessing breakthroughs that previous generations could barely imagine. We see advances in artificial intelligence that are transforming industries. We see progress in biotechnologies that is redefining medicine. We see engineers building sustainable infrastructure and resilience to city. And we see humanities reaching beyond Earth through space exploration. But behind every breakthrough is something even more important. People. People with ideas, people who collaborate, people who dare to imagine solutions to the world's toughest challenges. That is why gathering like this conference matter. Whether you are an established leader in your field or student just beginning your journey, this conference is for you. Because the future of science and engineering will not be built by individuals alone. It will be built by communities like this one, communities that share knowledge, support each other, and push the boundaries of what is possible. Thank you for your dedication to science and technologies and our communities. We are honored to host you, and we hope you enjoy an inspiring and memorable conference. Thank you.
NRC has long been an important platform that brings together scientists, engineers, students, and professionals from diverse fields. It provides a valuable opportunity to exchange ideas, build collaborations, and strengthen our professional network. This year's theme, Science and Technology for Human Potential, Shaping Our World and Beyond, is both timely and inspiring. As we face rapid technological changes and complex global challenges, collaboration across disciplines and communities has become ever important ever. So I encourage all of you to take full advantage of today's excellent program. Learn from distinguished speakers, actively engage in discussions, and most importantly, connect with one another. KSEA will continue to support regional conferences like NRC that strengthen our scientific community and help nurture the next generation of scientists and engineers. Once again, congratulations to the organizing committee, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring conference. Thank you.
It is my great honor to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Yoonie Joung. So Yoonie Joung is the president and CEO of Samsung Electronics North America and a 30-year Samsung veteran who began his career as an engineer and went on to lead major global business, including Samsung's mobile division in the United States and regional operations in Brazil and Turkey. In this keynote, he will share Samsung's vision for AI for everyone, everywhere.
This is a kind of a long history of AI development. There was 3 phases. Wave 1, artificial intelligence. Second wave was machine learning. Third was deep learning. So in first wave, it was started in 1950 through a Turing test, but there was a big hype, but it didn't happen. There was a first winter came. It didn't happen because of the limited processing power and restricted database storage capacity and constrained network ability. And then second hype came in 1980s through 1990s through expert systems. That time was a machine learning period. Unfortunately, it didn't happen again. There was a second winter due to failure to achieve scale. So scale is important because machine learning should be done with the big scale of the big data. Unfortunately, at the time, it didn't happen. And collapse of dedicated AI hardware and deep skepticism about future of AI. And then suddenly, ChatGPT came out in 2022. After that, everything changed. So these days, without AI, you cannot say anything. I think all of you really enjoy AI every day. Without AI, even you cannot survive, right? I don't know how professors have lectures in the school. All the other schools, students, they use AI, then they immediately check what's going on, right? Same with Samsung. Whenever I report to my boss, the president, about something, suddenly he opens the smartphone and they check if it is real or not. So it's very difficult to make false things. Everything should be correct. Everything is real-time checking through the AI. And then, interestingly, Samsung was the leader in AI industry in mobile field. 2 years ago, we launched Galaxy S24 with AI equipped. I'm going to explain more about the one. Next page. The left chart shows how was the adoption velocity benchmark. In US market, how long does it take to make 50 million users? TV, 22 years. PC, 14 years. Internet, 7 years. But ChatGPT, Gen AI, only 1 month to make 50 million users. This is amazingly interesting fact. Even 2 months, ChatGPT had 100 million users. I think for the future, this will be not happening again. How come one service is making 50 million users in just 1 month? Samsung also have a scale. 2 years ago, when we launched Galaxy S24 with AI equipped, we had 200 million devices are AI equipped. Last year, 400 million. This year, our target is to make 800 million of Galaxy devices should be AI embedded. Next. What about Samsung Semiconductor? I hope all of you have Samsung stocks. And then if you have Samsung stocks, you may be very happy. The stock price is increasing because of Samsung Semiconductor business, especially memory. Until now, the AI infrastructure was dominated by NVIDIA, thanks to their GPU, right? But this year, it is somewhat changing. So left-hand side, there is a general enterprise market, which is still dominated by NVIDIA and AMD. This is for general purpose GPUs to enhance the calculation of the AI. On the right-hand side, there is a hyperscaler and a specialized enterprise market. There are a lot of custom AI needs, accelerators. So right-hand side, there is Google, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, even Tesla. They are developing their own AI accelerators. So they don't want to use NVIDIA anymore. So they are becoming the mainstream in this market. Our semiconductor, we have a memory business, which we have a HBM4 3E. Then also we have a foundry business. We have a big foundry in Texas, Austin. So foundry business, they're not just manufacturing the AI chips, but they design together with the kind of hyperscalers. They design together, and then we manufacture and we supply. So this is our main semiconductor business for the AI. Next. So in AI, there are some layers. First one is cloud and hyperscalers, which is now OpenAI or Google Gemini or Amazon like that. And then there's an edge. Whenever there's to have a low latency calculation or response in the devices level, then there should be the edge. And then the living environment is what we have today. So for the brain, body, if you need to have a brain and body to make experience, right? So in brain, there is a chipset where processors and sensors, and there should be the AI OS. And of course, body is the device. So you are using AIs through PCs or smartphones, right? What about other products, other devices, how to enhance the lives? So throughout having brain and body, then you can enhance the experience. Next. Samsung S26. We launched just this week, new product. I hope you can experience this new product. Thanks to a lot of efforts, our initial sales, 3-day sales, is far better than last year. This is good news. A lot of consumers in the US, they will love AI features and of course hardware features, which is very good. So Galaxy S26 Ultra, especially, this product not only hardware performance but AI really dramatically changed. So there is a photo assist, a partnership with Google Gemini. So whatever you make all the comments, if you write down all the requests to the smartphone, then the photo and video can be really changed. Now brief, meaning whatever I have a schedule, my condition of the health, the now brief, understand my context, and then it posts to me automatically. This is a Galaxy S26 with AI. I think if you download the apps for ChatGPT or Gemini, you can use some features like that, right? So this is not new for this industry, but how to make it easy to use in your devices, this should be our challenge. Because not downloading all the different apps, and then if you want to change, if you want to edit your photos, you need to go to the apps and then select the photo and do a lot of things. You don't need to do that. Just a simple switch, simple button, simple speech, you can do everything. This is the beauty of the partnership with the AI hyperscalers like Google or Microsoft working with Samsung. Next, this is on-device AI. I'd like to explain because we had a survey, survey for the workplace. How many people are using AI in your workplace? 90%. Are we happy? What about the trust of AI? Only 30%. Lower part is a survey for the personal lives. 73% they are using AI in their personal lives, and then 50% they trust. This means, although we are using AI every day, the trust is different. Trust is different. We concern a lot about the privacy and security. So this is the solution we need to develop to make everybody use. Next. So in AI, there is cloud AI, on-device AI, and a hybrid cloud AI. Cloud AI is what you are using every day today. So whenever you use AI, you click a button, and then your request goes to the cloud, and the cloud answers, and you can see the answers, right? So if there is a command through smartphone or PC, the request goes to the cloud, like ChatGPT or Gemini, and then the answers. Second is on-device. Whatever you request, it is possible to calculate in this on-device. It doesn't connect to the cloud, and then just answer coming out. What is good for on-device is that this on-device AI can understand better about my context, my calendar, my email, my photos, everything on-device, and this never goes to the cloud. So that's why the privacy and security is verified. However, sometimes our request is not only on-device, not only cloud, so it is hybrid. So we selected a hybrid approach, sometimes based on the command of the consumers, sometimes on-device, sometimes cloud. So how to make privacy and security better? We have a KEEP solution, which is Knox. Knox is Samsung secret platform, which is built on-device with hardware encrypted. So whenever there's a AP chipset, like Qualcomm chipset, there's a hardware part, then we made it a security element in the hardware. So the hacking is coming, it cannot be hacked. So we have that kind of a solution. And then if you use all the apps separately, if you use Netflix app, Uber, all the apps, we have my contacts in the apps in the data. It cannot be transferred. So you don't need to worry about my data is transferring to other apps to be leaked. Okay? This is our solution as KEEP. On-device AI, we have a Knox vault. So all the security information is saved in special area, and then we keep that as a Knox vault. Hybrid cloud AI, we have a contract with Gemini or other partners to have special privacy and security guaranteed in this process. So we use that as a hybrid cloud architecture. Whenever we ask a lot of a request to the cloud, it is guaranteed that it will be not saved in the cloud, not trained by AI, and then it will not leak. So this is what Samsung is guaranteeing as a privacy and security. Next. And then a lot more. Our direction we have a special AP chipset compared with Qualcomm chipset. We have a Samsung Exynos NPU, Neural Processor Unit, is very important these days. Not only CPU, not only GPU, right? So if you have a strong NPU, you can have a better calculation, better understanding, better reply on device. So the competition these days is how strong the chipset can perform AI within device, not go to the cloud. So there is a lot of competition there. So you can say Samsung Exynos chipset is far better than other competitors in NPU level. And we have more technologies like neural architecture search. Whenever the search is coming, not just one by one command and reply, it should be more neural architecture. This can make automated discovery of optimal mobile answers. And then extreme compression. We need to have a special compression technology to make that happen because there are too many big data processing. If you just process raw data, it's very difficult to have a real-time answer, right? So we need to have a special compression technology. And of course, on-device memory, heterogeneous runtime interface, inference, and then Samsung AI Studio. So all these technologies are supporting Samsung to build special AI process and AI service. Next. I'm going to talk about AI OS. Currently, if you say OS, operating system means Microsoft Windows, Microsoft OS, or Android OS or iOS, right? But what about AI OS for the future? Next. Currently, what you are using other services, including AI, is the app-based, right? You select the app, then all the different apps have different context, different services, and then this app answers to me. So whenever I have a request, I need to select what app I have to use, right? This is app-based model. For the future, this is transferring to agent-based model. So you don't need to select app one by one. Whenever you have a command, this device understands better than me. Then this finds all the context in the device. And then this agent, we're going to select one by one different apps, and then this makes the solution. To make it happen, it cannot be done by OS. It cannot be done by apps only. So there is a hardware, there's a middleware, and then there's a OS and app-based. So we have to integrate all the different apps with OS. Whatever it is Android, whatever it is Windows, it should be integrated. So we call that AI OS. So we work very closely with Google, with Android OS, that although there is an Android layer, upper layer, that we build a Galaxy AI platform. This platform is integrated with OS and all the apps. So if you have AI OS, then you can have all the different apps work together to give better answer. Next. So for example, you have an intent, task automation, context engine, and done. So for example, I have a command like, please call me the Uber. I'd like to go to the airport. Then, for example, if I need to go to the airport, what time is the flight? How long does it take? Right? All the information I have to find one by one. So go to the map, go to the calendar, then even go with whom. I need to check the email, right? And then finally click Uber to make it happen, right? But you don't need to do that. Just make a voice. I'd like to go to the airport. Please call Uber. And this agent, AI agent, understands my command, and then this automatically goes to all the different apps to check my context and give the answer. This is behind the scene. So I don't know check what apps it is searching, but just this gives the answer. Hey, this is a Uber candidates. So then what I need to do is just click and confirm the payment. So this is our dream, but it is coming true right now. Some venture companies like OpenClaw, they are already making this kind of scenarios, but unfortunately it's very difficult to use. But in Galaxy S26, you can just use with simple command, simple click, everything's done. This is possible through AI OS. Next. What about device ecosystem? I'm talking only about mobile industry because all of you, I think, use AIs through PC and smartphones. What else? If you can use AIs in your TVs or washing machine, other home appliances, it would be better. It would be enhanced lifestyle, right? Globally, we have SmartThings technology. 430 million devices, Samsung devices are already connected now through SmartThings solution. SmartThings is kind of an IoT solution based on the Matter technology standard. So if you connect the devices, you can really control, you can really monitor other products. This is the beauty of connected devices. Currently, I use SmartThings in my daily life. So whenever the laundry is finished, the message is coming to my smartphone. Even I can control other things. The energy saving I can monitor. Energy saving for refrigerator, vacuum cleaner, everything. And I have a robot cleaner, so I can control. And then robot cleans everything, 2 hours. Return home, everything done. So this is kind of a benefit of the connected devices through SmartThings. Next. So we put already AI in TVs. So in Samsung TV, there is a VAC, which is Vision AI Companion. If you have a Vision AI Companion, there is a special remote controller. In remote controller, there is an AI button. Whenever you watch the TV or movie, you don't need to go to separate PC to search other different information. Just click the AI button, then ask any kind of questions. Like, what clothing brand wearing in this scene? Which is considered to be the best fine dining restaurant? Give me the foolproof recipe of the food. Play the song of the year. Give you ideas about 3-course dinner I can make. So whatever the question within the TV, you can ask immediately, then there is the answer. So this is special partnership with Google Gemini these days, and then Perplexity is already there. So some answers are coming on device because we have an NPU in TV, but some questions go to the cloud, and then Gemini or Perplexity, they give the answer. So this is new features in recent TVs. Next. Before, from a page, how to make it happen. So we have a pattern from before, TV page. So the technology we have for the Vision AI Companion supports an open ecosystem. I mentioned about Gemini, Perplexity, but under the hood, we have a micro LLM. LLM is really a big language, but there is a micro LLM which is embedded in TV. So this micro LLM understands my context and give the answers. And on-device knowledge graph. So knowledge graph means a lot of context for myself in device. So Samsung TV, smartphone, they have a knowledge graph to understand and analyze my context to give better solution. This kind of a big data of myself is saved only in the device, not in the cloud, right? So analyzing this big data of myself is knowledge graph. Next page. What about in home? There are a lot of appliances. Why AI in home appliance? You know, my wife's really enjoying AI every day with ChatGPT or Gemini, but she kept asking me, hey, why refrigerator? Why laundry need to have AI? I don't use it, right? But it's not like that. If you think the future, there are a lot of possibilities, a lot of use cases. For example, in the refrigerator, there's a big display. We call this as a family hub. There's a 30-inch display there. There's a YouTube, all the contents are there. But in the refrigerator, there's a camera. And then there's Gemini inside of the fridge. So whenever you put all the ingredients in the fridge, then this understands what is in there. So in the smartphone, in outside, I can check. If I have a milk, I have enough egg to make a food, I can check remotely. And then even if I don't check, this gives the notice to me that you need to prepare something because it is out of the border. Based on the context of myself in the history, so this can recommend to me to prepare something. This is a kind of an agent to the fridge. And then if I want to make some kind of food with the ingredients inside the fridge, this can recommend what kind of food you can make for tonight dinner. Then if I click this is food with a recipe, this can recommend the process, how to make this food with timing and then temperature, everything, and then send automatically to the oven. If I just click, then the oven starts. What I need to do is just prepare the food ingredients and then put in the oven. That's all, right? I think all of you may say, I don't like to use it. I don't may. But it is already happening. We already launched this product, and somebody is started to use. So we are going to monitor what is the use behavior, and we are going to improve. Before, several years ago, we launched this kind of concept, but understanding the food was very limited because of the camera, because of the big data, because of the cloud limitation. But thanks to Gemini partnership, everything is possible. So recognizing the food is not only 100, not only 1,000, it's unlimited possibility. So it's very interesting that AI can understand what this is. Whatever you purchase from Costco, from Walmart, this can understand. This can read the barcode, this can understand what is the food, what is that unlimited possibility. So this is what we are aiming for. Next. So enabling AI living experiences. I just mentioned about the mobile, TV, and the home appliances, but what about the experience? Next. Our aiming is not just control. Through smart things control, it is already possible to control other devices through a smartphone. But this is not our target. Our aim is less chores, more life. So we aim zero housework home. Whatever you do in your home, no friction, zero hurdles. Autonomous sensing is the solution we are preparing. So key capabilities, edge AI. AI should be not only in the cloud, AI feature should be in the edge, which is device. And vision, voice, we have to put a lot of different sensors in the devices, and we can monitor the energy and we can control the use. Next. What we are emphasizing to develop new technologies is always human-centered. So is it useful? Is it really solving the real life problems? Contextual, understanding better of your data. Personal. Is it unique for me? It should be personal, not for everybody, not too general, right? And then trusted. Is it secured? My privacy is guaranteed. So this is kind of a basic philosophy. Whenever we develop the technology, device, and services, we think this as a basic principle to make better services to the consumers. If it is not happening, always sometimes we develop that new technology, but nobody is using. It's useless, right? And then although there is a good technology, good device, but if there is no security guaranteed, again, there is no trust. So how to build a trust with the consumers to make it happen? This would be our vision. So we keep saying human-centered AI experience for everyone. Next. What about the roadmap? Until last year, we put a lot of AI features in the apps, the devices, but this year, first time, we put AI as an agent. So as an agent, this can understand better for my command and request. This can solve all the problems immediately. What about the future? More context-aware, and then autonomous. So although we have an agent, there maybe have different agents. One agent dedicated for my personal, different agent for my healthcare. Maybe there may be different agents with different learnings, right? Then this should be all multi-agent coordination. It should be autonomous. So we have that kind of roadmap, but nobody knows because AI technology is changing every day, every week. So I'm learning AI through YouTube, not from our technology team, because in YouTube, all the new technologies are coming. So keep monitoring AI technology is very difficult. Everything's changed too fast. So although I'm saying roadmap for the next 3-4 years, maybe this will happen next week. I don't know, right? This is difficulties for all of you in technology side. Next. So this is my final page. We have a full stack AI technology solutions services through the brain, body to make better experience. But we keep monitoring what is the behavior of the consumers, what is the request, what is the needs of consumers. Although they don't say any needs to Samsung, but we like to identify what is the future, how to fulfill the customer's needs to enhance the lifestyle. Our vision is to enhance the lifestyle of the consumers through new technology and device and services. That's why we put always the human in the center. Sometimes we lose customer focus. If you don't understand consumers well, then although we have a better technology, better product, but they will not use, then we lose in this industry. That's why I hope all of you really, with the same pace, that your technology, your engineering is very important, but always human-centered, customer-centered. I hope we go in that way together. Next page. So AI experiences everywhere for everywhere. I hope all of you really understand our strategy, and then hope we can work together for the future. Thank you very much.
I was wondering, you said brain and body. I had a question about the body part where other companies are preparing like glass and everything. What do you think this phone will be like in the next 10 years? Will it move on to glass or watch, or would it just disappear? How can we like integrate all these technologies seamlessly, maybe without a phone or with a phone? Is Samsung preparing any other devices?
It's a great question. This is a big debate in our industry. What would be the future, right? So some venture companies, they created kind of AI devices like AI pin or something. That's why we also really investigate what would be the future. Our thinking is that there should be a better UX, right? What kind of a UX is critical to use AI better? Is it voice command? Is it vision? Or is it display to understand the data? So what is critical? This is the key answer for them, right? So we think that smartphone would be a core device for us to give better performance or the display, understanding better, and then context. But without smartphone, can you make that happen with other device? So we think glass would be the next possible item. With a smartphone, maybe if we put all the CPUs, display, then voice command is embedded in the glass, this can make happen. Right? But if there's a small pin, I don't know. It should be kind of a complementary to the smartphone. Without opening the smartphone, you can easily communicate with other devices. But in that sense, we think the buds, Galaxy Buds, kind of a hearing product would be the answer. If we have just simple current buds is like 3 hours, 4 hours battery is very difficult to use whole day. But we are developing different buds. So whenever you have it, it's very simple and then very easy to use. So you can wear this buds whole day. Then through this buds, you can communicate with the smartphone to complement your service. So there's a lot of possibilities like glass, watch, buds, and more. So we are now monitoring what would be the trend for the future, but nobody knows. So we are investing a lot on these kind of devices and technologies.
Let us give a round of applause again to our speaker.
It is my great pleasure to introduce next speaker for psychology session, Dr. Lisa Son. So Dr. Lisa Son is professor and chair of psychology at Barnard College, Columbia University, whose research focuses on human learning and metacognition. She explores how moments of incomplete information, glimpses, can spark curiosity, creativity, and imagination, revealing how the foundation of genius exists within all of us. Let's welcome Dr. Son.
I want to take us back, first of all, to 1980. This was a time when I took one of my first trips to Korea for the first time. And I have a memory, and I'm just using AI to find these photos. This is a bus in 1980 from Seoul to Cheonan. It was the first time I went to Cheonan, which was my father's hometown. While I was on the bus, right, as soon as I arrived in Cheonan, I actually remember looking out the window and seeing the countryside. I remember seeing the dirt. I remember seeing the little hut-like houses. And this was not the hut that I actually saw. I don't have any photos back then. Again, I looked up on the internet, show me a house in Cheonan in 1980. And it did look somewhat similar to this. I remember seeing the hut for the first time. It was very different to all the houses that I had been experiencing in New Jersey, where I grew up. And so the other thing is, as soon as I arrived, right, I was able to meet some relatives there. And again, I was like 7 years old. I met some relatives, and it was the first time that I ever heard somebody call my father by his name. Samshiga. It was the first time, right? So I remember these memories vividly, right? And I kept them with me. And actually, these memories led to something more. And this is what I want to talk about today. These were all small memories in my mind that have stayed with me since I was 7 years old. And actually, I didn't go back to Cheonan until I was an adult. When I went back, of course, the dirt road, the buses, the huts, all very different now in Cheonan. But I have these in my memories, and these are what I call glimpses. Just to define glimpse formally, I use this word not only because it's an appropriate word, but it's a beautiful word, right? The noun is a fleeting view or look. Fleeting, I have in yellow to emphasize. It's just a peek. If I was talking about meeting a person, I love this word too. It's an encounter, right? You meet someone at the bus stop. You meet someone you sit next to on the plane ride. It's just an encounter. But some of these encounters and glimpses stay with you. And the verb form is the same, to get a brief look at, to see momentarily or incompletely. And that's really the key. It's incomplete. The whole story is not there. But I'm going to say, right, this was the title of the talk, I'm going to give you just a glimpse of the things I've been thinking about, not only preparing this talk, but I've also been working on a book, which is also called Glimpse. And I have in parentheses this word of genius. The reason I talk about the word genius is because in the past, I've been sort of known as the person who has always said, you know, there's no such thing as genius, right? And in fact, not only is there no such thing, there's no use for it, right? If I say, oh, that person's a genius, what's the benefit? What's the use? Who cares? And is it even true? Right? But I've said there is no such thing as genius, and if you think about the definition of genius, it's an exceptional intellectual or creative power or other natural ability, meaning we're born this way. We're born with this. And that's what the definition of genius has been. But the thesis today, and what I've been thinking about, is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to change my stance. I'm going to admit, yes, there is such a thing as genius, and we all possess it because it's natural, but that natural ability is not something we can perform or we can sort of showcase in any type of performance. Instead, it's a natural ability that comes from a glimpse. Going back to the glimpses that I have in my mind of Cheonan in 1980, each of these glimpses did something different. It wasn't the glimpse, but it allowed me, in that moment actually, to imagine my entire father's childhood. I didn't care if it was true or not. Reality or not, I imagined, oh, this is what my father's childhood was. At the same time, I became very curious and created a life for myself in Cheonan if I had lived there, right? This is really the genius, that glimpses lead to curiosity, imagination, and creativity. Today's talk, I'm not going to really talk about these three mechanisms differently. I'm just going to sort of put them together as a similar type of finding. And what I'm going to show, this is sort of the conclusion first in a brief way, that the genius pathway is that a glimpse can lead us to this natural ability that we all have to imagine, create, and to be curious. But it's not that I have a reality or a truth that I can show you, but it's that these curiosities, imaginations, and creativities can lead to more glimpses, right? It's more seeking of information. And as you can see, these glimpses were so strong, and I was such a genius that it led to so many glimpses, not only for myself, but for my kids. I wanted to make sure that I could know as much as I could, not only of Cheonan, but of every other city I could get to in Korea, to understand the culture. And of course, as you get older, it's difficult to do it for yourself only, but for my kids, I'm always excited when I am able to show them a glimpse of something that's foreign, something that's different, because of course my kids also, Korean American, grow up here. So I showed them many glimpses. And that's what I really want to talk about today, this genius ability that we have to take a glimpse and run with it. So how do we measure a glimpse? I'm a cognitive psychologist, so what I'm going to do is go through a few different experiments that I've thought about that are related to glimpses and how genius we are at taking them and doing something with it, but also when it breaks down. Okay, so here's just a little demonstration that you can do. I hope you can see it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flash for you a variety of items in 3 rows, top, middle, bottom. Your task is to encode all of the items. Immediately afterwards, I'm going to present a star. The star will be positioned at the top, middle, or bottom of the slide. The location of the star will indicate which row of items you will need to remember and say out loud. Everybody understand? You have to look very carefully because it's just going to be a flash, and then you have to repeat what those items are in the row that has the star located on it. Okay, ready? Okay? What were they? B, C, B, 9. Okay, let's try one more trial. Ready? G, D, 8, B. So what we're seeing, some of you are too far away, and of course this is not an exact experiment. I would have to do the flash in the right way. But what we're seeing is we do have retrievals. And this was a classic experiment to look at our capacity for a glimpse. They didn't call it a glimpse, it's called sensory memory. And what was found, this is a really creative experiment because what was found was that if I gave you an entire array like this, if I gave you an entire array like this and said, remember all of these items, all 12, you would say G5, you wouldn't be able to remember anymore because there's output interference. So this is known as the partial report procedure, where if I just take a star, right, regardless over trials where the location is, people are able to get the entire row. So that means your capacity is very big, right? It's bigger than the partial report. As long as the star is presented immediately, if there's a delay, it goes away. But as long as it's presented immediately, we're able to remember the items in the particular row aligned with the star. This means that within a flash of taking in visual information, we can see and remember more than the partial report. And this was at the beginning of the cognitive revolution, beginning of when we had computers, okay? So the short story is that we get a lot in a glimpse. And the question is, are you gonna retain it? Okay, so what we saw here is, many of you were correct, and what I gave you was actually a pretty perfect glimpse. One question that I wanted to make sure to go through, especially as a parent, and especially as a parent who talks with a lot of other parents who are worried about their English, and they ask me often, my English is imperfect. Should I still speak to my child in English, right, since they were a baby? And this is a question I often get, and I see a lot of parents avoiding speaking in English because their English is broken. And this is a really difficult question to test in psychology. So for example, you might look at my parents, and they've lived here in America, but they immigrated here, so their English is not perfect, right? But you see me as the child, and my English became fluent. So you could conclude, oh, it doesn't matter if the parent's English is not perfect, the kid learns English. But that's not the case, right? There are confounding factors because I go to school, I meet others, I watch TV, and so on. So that is not a perfect experiment. But there was a perfect experiment, which was the case of Simon, which was a deaf child. Simon was born deaf to hearing parents. And that means the parents did not know sign language at the time. And of course, they had to learn it desperately, very quickly, right, as adults. So after the baby was born, they sort of took a crash course in American Sign Language. So obviously their sign language was very disfluent, right? It was broken. So what could they do? In their town, there were no ASL schools. There were no other deaf students. There were nobody around who knew American Sign Language fluently. So that's why this is a perfect experiment. So them as parents were signing in a broken way to their child. What happened with the child? Fascinating, and here's genius. Singleton and Newport titled their talk, "When Learners Surpass Their Models, the Acquisition of American Sign Language from Inconsistent Input." So this case, Simon, as the deaf child, made perfect American Sign Language simply from the broken signs that he got from their parents. So even with inconsistent input, and I call this an imperfect glimpse, Simon was able to develop a more fluent ASL system. Basically, he was able to create. He was able to imagine more given those core glimpses of ASL. So this is a really important point. He took the core glimpses of the language and ignored errors. Ignored the errors of his parents. How did he know what were the errors, right? So this is really some sort of genius where you can imagine a better system just with broken input. So that actually doesn't go against this idea of a perfect glimpse. A perfect glimpse actually is an imperfect, incomplete one. And that's really important. Too much these days, and actually when I think about AI and Samsung, we want perfection. We want perfect glimpses. We want people to do it for us. And this might become a problem. So in Simon's case, we get a lot in a glimpse, right? But we seemingly ignore the imperfections. What happens if we're unable to ignore these imperfections? So another way to ask this question is, what if we thought the glimpse was too short? What if we thought the glimpse was insufficient, right? If we expected more of a story, more of a perfect explanation or an answer. What I propose is that the consequence might be that we will not choose to invest in curiosity, imagination, or creativity. And this is really the killing off of humanity. This is when we can't create anymore, when we can't imagine anymore, this might become a problem. So I want to talk about an insufficient glimpse, but again, an insufficient glimpse here is based on what the glimpser thinks, right? We can't define what an incomplete or insufficient glimpse is. It depends on how the glimpser takes it. So if there's an insufficient glimpse and you think, it's not enough, I don't want it, it's too hard for me. This is when we have the danger of, especially kids saying, I can't do it. I don't want to do it, right? So I want to go back, and this was an early experiment I did many years ago, and because I thought about it again, thinking about a glimpse. And it was with elementary school students in New York City. And what we did was we provided for them texts like these, right? Would it be fun to be a fish, right? And these were 3rd to 5th graders, and they were, the texts that we gave them were appropriate for their age, meaning it was very clear to understand, okay? So some of the texts they got were in this format. Other texts in a different condition were similarly very easy to understand text for their age, but had a little more effort involved because the font was a little bit weird and the color was also similar to the background. So they had to sort of squint, and it took them a little bit longer to get through the text. But again, it's still legible. They could still do it. And I call this a sufficient versus an insufficient glimpse. But in a sense, they're both glimpses. They're both perfect glimpses because you could still read them, right? So after, they did these different trials, after they read each text, they were asked for a judgment of comprehension. How confident, how do you feel that you understood the text? And this was on a scale from 1 to 6. And kids this age, they're very good at understanding how to use a scale and how to understand what they understand. Okay? So after we asked them for the judgment of comprehension, we gave them a multiple choice test. And so here, going back to this sort of idea of genius, we could ask, we can be interested, how did they do on the test? But it's actually not that interesting. That's not what genius is. And besides, they did 100% almost. It didn't matter what the text font was. So they were all very, very smart, and they all got it, and they could all do the task. But before we ended the experiment, at the very end, we gave them theories of intelligence scale for kids. And this was typically the one that was developed by Carol Dweck, looking at, some of you might know it as fixed versus growth mindset, but originally they were called entity versus incremental theorists. Right? Entity theorists are those who believe that intelligence is fixed, meaning we're born that way. Incremental theorists are those who believe that intelligence can be developed. Right? We're not born that way. It's not really about genius. Okay, so that's what we did, and the first sad thing is that we get a lot of entity theorists. We get a lot of entity and incremental. At that young of age, people think already that their intelligence can't be developed. So remember, performance, there was no difference. But now what I'm really interested is, what happens to their judgments of comprehension? Do they still think they learned a lot and understood the text? They should, because they did fine on the multiple choice test. So the only interesting manipulation here is, if they feel like they didn't comprehend it, that's the I can't do it, right? The glimpse was not good enough. And here's what we got. So we have basically sufficient and insufficient were the two types of conditions. We have the judgment of comprehension on the y-axis, and we have the incremental theorist, which is the gray bar that you see going straight across. Those kids who believe that intelligence can be developed were basically correct in understanding that they comprehended it. It didn't matter what the glimpse font was, right? But this is really the devastating picture here, because this is very strong data. You never get this kind of strong data in cognitive psychology. What you saw was that entity-focused kids, if the glimpse were clear and easy, sort of given to you, right? You said, yeah, I comprehended it all. It's very high. But if they got the insufficient glimpse, where it was a little bit effortful to read, then it really just plummeted all the way down. Basically, I think it's similar to saying, I can't do it. So some people have said to me, well, if there's no performance difference, who cares? As long as they do well on performance. Of course we have to care. If a child who's an entity theorist is studying at home alone and they open their textbook and they think, oh, the font's too much, there's not enough pictures, they're not going to want to read. They're already going to think, oh, I don't want to study because I'm not going to be able to do well anyway. So it's really important to think about what are the things that affect how we're going to take a glimpse and run with it, or whether we're going to give up. So basically it's the entity theorists, even the incremental theorists took this very difficult font and said, no, I got it. I can do something with this, right? Okay? But it's really that's what intelligence is, and that's really the incremental theorists who thought in that way, okay? So a glimpse, I want to say, is not ours to receive, period. It's not just something we take and say, okay, I know the answer, thank you. It's very different from that. It's something that's much more active, right? And that's where we get into Curious George. Of course, we love Curious George. Of the series, this was my favorite Curious George book, and it's when he finds these puzzle pieces. It's just a glimpse. It's novel. He doesn't know what the puzzles are, okay? But he's curious. He's curious, and he's going to go for it. He's going to go for it. He's not going to say, oh, this is too complex for me to understand. He's going to go for it. So what does he do? He eats a puzzle piece because it looks like candy. And so this was the Curious George Goes to the Hospital series. And it's really just adorable, but it's adorable because we see the actual curiosity that came from just a glimpse, right? It's a completely novel thing. So it's not ours to receive, it's an active type of genius where you take it and you do some kind of behavior. In this case, right, it's a little dangerous, but he survived, and curiosity has been defined as a need to know when there is uncertainty. but I'm going to tweak this definition a little bit soon. Okay, so the main thing is that glimpses don't inspire one answer. They inspire more glimpses. Just like I did with my glimpses of Korea, ongoing for my whole life, right? And this is what I call a metacognitive glimpse. Metacognition is something that I study, and I'm not talking about it a lot today, but it's very related to what this metacognitive cycle of a glimpse is. Metacognition in general says that we have an opinion. I can say, yeah, this was pretty easy, or I understood this, or I know that this is candy, or I think this is candy. But it also gives us the ability to say, I might be wrong. I don't know what this is. I need to do more experimentation. I need to be active, right? And that's the imagination, creativity, and curiosity. And it also allows us to then say, I need to seek more. That's the curiosity part, right? I need to seek more, but seeking more doesn't stop and give you an answer. That's when you get feedback. The feedback isn't, here's the answer, this is what it is, it's a puzzle. No, it basically just allows you to adjust your opinion, right? There's always a constant reuptake of feedback, and you have to change your opinion. And this is a constant cycle. This is where we get the metacognitive glimpse that leads to other glimpses, and a change, a constant change of your development in knowing, okay? So I'm going to change the definition of curiosity, not merely a need to know, but a need to know more. It's a constant need to know more. In other words, you don't necessarily need a final answer. And that's really true curiosity. There have been two different types of curiosity investigated in psychology. One of them is known as explorative curiosity, which is like this cycle, the metacognitive curiosity. The other is called exploitative curiosity. And people talk about it as a why versus what. If you have a little kid asking, why is the sky blue? That's explorative curiosity. If you have a kid answering, what color is the sky? You say blue. Yeah, it's done. That's sort of exploitative. It's really interesting when I have parents come up to me and say, they really boast, you know, my kid is so curious. I asked them to think about what kind of curiosity is it, right? And I also asked them to think, how do you answer your kids' questions, right? If it's a one-word answer like this is the answer, that's not the true curiosity that you want. And what they say is that explorative curiosity leads to more uncertainty, but exploitative leads to certainty. And that's not the type of metacognitive curiosity that you want. Okay, it's been found in the literature that, in fact, exploitative curiosity is much more common in adults, because we're busy, and low socioeconomic status individuals. And we can imagine it's a lot of work to keep using exploration, right? So you can imagine, and I did this, if we have a current state and we want to get to a goal state, I did this very slowly to make you annoyed, right? This could be a way, one path of explorative curiosity. Before you get to an answer or an opinion, it takes you a long time with a lot of detours. Another way that it could be is that you never get to a full answer, and instead you very slowly think of several different types of paths or potential answers, right? And again, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time. Here's another consideration for exploration. You could get to an answer and say, this is how I'm going to produce it. But then you can say, well, let me go back to the beginning and start over. How often do we do that? There are a lot of cases where we reject this. We just want to get to an answer and memorize it. Okay, and this is where we're getting into the exploitative curiosity. So what happens if you reject a glimpse? And I wanted to go through this experiment which I really like. But before I do that, I want to talk about just the definitions of metacognition. There are two types of processes in metacognition. Monitoring is when we say, in my opinion, this is true, but I might be wrong. Control is when we say, let's seek more so I can get feedback. So those are the two different types which equal metacognition. It's the control process, the let's seek more because I want to get feedback, that's often missing, right? We can very easily say, oh yeah, I'm not really sure about that, but do we seek information or not? Are we curious for information or not? Okay, and this is actually, I think, a really interesting question with the future of AI, especially with trust. You know, we have a lot of AI doctors, right? But the question is, does the patient trust the AI doctor? And that research is now just beginning. Okay, so it's the let's seek more, that's the question. So in this experiment, which was done just before COVID, these were also Barnard and Columbia students, we gave students different statements like this. They say smoking causes lung cancer. They say hard work pays off. They say children of rich parents are spoiled. And for every single statement, we asked people to give on a scale a rating from non-factness to fact. So they say children of rich parents are spoiled. How much of a fact is it? And then we asked them on a completely different session, how much of an opinion is it? So we should all expect that if something is a fact, it cannot be an opinion, right? That should be negatively correlated, which we should expect and which we got. We also asked in a different session about agreement. So if I asked you, they say children of rich parents are spoiled, how much do you agree? 1 to 7. Disagree to agree. This is what we found, okay? And we tested actually both students here in America, in New York, and students this was actually in Aju University in Korea. Everything was translated into Korean. Okay, so here's what we found, and you don't have to go through all of this. What we want to say, there was a bunch of different statements, and of course you might be able to tell here that fact and opinion were negatively correlated. But what you might also be able to see is that fact correlated with agreement. That's very dangerous, right? You can see it here. Agreement, just because you agree with something, it doesn't mean it's a fact. And that's when we start refusing to have discussions, okay? So in this case, you might think, oh yeah, I agree that children of rich parents are spoiled. Are you going to want to reach out to the kids? No. It's going to stop all your curiosity, okay? So basically, we're going to stop about seeking more information. Okay, I'm going to now go through my final experiment. That was mild. It's okay if we say The Godfather's the best movie in the world. It's a fact. Nothing's dangerous about it. But let's get into a more potentially dangerous situation of a glimpse. Imagine waking up one morning with a little scratch in your throat. You worry that you're coming down with something, but hope it's just from a lack of sufficient sleep. Over the next hour, you develop a cough, and for a moment you think, maybe I should call a doctor. But the moment passes and you assume, as you've heard, that a cold is going around, that you've just come down with a simple cold. So here, you can actually diagnose yourself, or you can seek more information. And this is sort of the inspiration for this experiment that, in fact, just was published this morning. So, we gave subjects, and this is also Barnard Columbia College students, we gave subjects a series of symptoms like a fever, headache, chills, vomiting, muscle pain. What is the diagnosis? Okay, you might say, oh, it's the flu, it's B, influenza. We asked then, how confident are you in your diagnosis? And then we asked in a separate experiment, do you want to get more information? Meaning, do you want to see more symptoms? because you might want to change your answer. And in fact, if they say, yeah, I want more information, then we might say, okay, you also have an infection inside the mouth and the toothache. So you might change your answer. That's what metacognition is, the constant cycle of a glimpse. Or pain between the ears and neck. And you could go up to 3 series of symptoms. Okay, here's another one. Okay, how confident are you? Get more information, you can get more information. Okay, we also, before the experiment, right, had different conditions. We had a control group who just did the regular experiment so we could see the confidence level and the information seeking. But we also had 2 expertise levels, a short condition and a long condition. In the short condition, people were given a series of illnesses and their symptoms for 5 minutes before the experiment. In the other condition, the long condition, it was throughout the experiment. So we think of the long condition as the truer experts, and the short condition as the people just looking up stuff on internet, okay? And so if we look at how confident are you, we do see that the short condition, the illusion of knowing, had the highest confidence. And that's pretty dangerous. We also found, for the get more information, that the short condition is less likely to get more information at both decision stage 1 and decision stage 2. And this is basically so it's really the illusion of expertise in this paper. Okay, so the AI effects, I just want to say one thing about AI before I finish. What are the AI effects? It's basically given to you. It's given to you. You don't really have to rely on imagination, creativity, right, or curiosity. And if you want to get to this, the metacognitive glimpse is actually easiest with people. When you get into discussions with people, that's when you're getting into this metacognitive glimpse cycle of curiosity, right? So it can be achieved socially, right? The question is, how efficient do we want to be? So we have to get that balance, right? So the genius glimpse that I talked about before, this is my final points, getting to this curiosity, imagination, creativity. My first point is that we all have genius. My second point is that genius comes from this glimpse. My third point is that the wrong glimpse, or what we feel about a glimpse, can lead to ungenius, where we don't want to do anything actively anymore. And the fourth point is that metacognitive glimpses are the ones that give rise to further glimpses repeatedly. Thanks.